morning. Whether you're participating online or here in person, we say welcome home to Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Barbara Coldarn, and I am so glad you're here. For our guests, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the Live Oak weekly newsletter. It's the go-to place to know everything that is happening here. There's a link on our homepage. Our minister, Reverend Joanna, is on sabbatical through August. We are very pleased to welcome back to Live Oak the Reverend Erin Walter to our pulpit. Reverend Erin Walter, she, her, hers, serves as the minister and executive director for the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry, our statewide action network. Winner of the 2017 Sermon Award for the UU Women's Federation and a former YMCA director. Reverend Erin is singer, songwriter, bassist for the band Parker Woodland and teaches community Zumba as a joy practice. Erin is the affiliated community minister of Wildflower UU Church in Austin. And now, here and at home, let us light our chalices. To be a Unitarian Universalist by Erica Hewitt. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine each other, no matter what the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, seeking one another, getting free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Our opening hymn is 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple." Please rise either in body or in spirit. Join us in singing. Every week when we gather, we share pieces of our lives with each other. We share our sorrows so that we may offer comfort to one another, and we share our joys so that we may celebrate together. For those of you watching online, please share in the chat box any joys or sorrows you are sharing today. Reverend Erin says, "Concern and prayer for my Aunt Cindy and anyone with cancer." Becca Russell says, "Ack, 40 years old. When did this happen? What a journey brought me here. Here's to many more." And for me, please take a deep breath and send peaceful thoughts around the world. In this religious community, we hold with reverence the knowledge that each week a multitude of different emotions and experiences are brought together into this space. One of us may be celebrating, one weeping, one filled with determination, one with despair. This mosaic of experiences is holy, and we honor all with our witness.
Happy to be back with you, and I wanted to come closer and feel grounded for this time for the big idea. So I'm the Reverend Erin Walter, and I know some of you, and I'm getting to meet some of you for the first time, and I'm re-meeting some of you. I feel like everyone's a person from the internet. What did I say? I said to Lindy, it's you, or I said to someone else, it's you from the internet. So I'm really excited to be with you again in person. And so the big idea that I want to share with you today is about some memories for being together in person as a Unitarian Universalist. So since I saw you last, one thing that's changed for me is, as you heard, I'm the executive director and the minister of our justice ministry now. And what I remember from before the pandemic was going to the Capitol together as Unitarian Universalists to advocate for our values, our principles, our sense of justice in this world and in the state of Texas. Has anyone been a part of that before? I saw some nods. Have you been to the Capitol? Let's see it. All right, let's give these people some love for that, okay? Before we even go, come on, come on. Thank you. I want you to remember how good it feels to be in the Capitol and know that it's your house. Because it's very hard sometimes being from Texas, being in Texas, and especially lately. So the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry would gather UUs from all around the state. We would come together and we would learn about our issues, some of the issues that folks have voted on: racial justice, environmental justice, voting rights, healthcare access. Our congregations have voted that we prioritize those things. And we would go and we would talk to our representatives so they could hear from us. They could see our faces. They could understand where we're coming from. And then we would get together and we would sing. We would sing in the rotunda. And I remember coming up one day after a very gray day, rain, and after all that singing with Common Ground singers from Dallas, who came down with one of the Dallas congregations. And I remember after singing, woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom, and singing it in Spanish, amanecí con libertad en mi mente, and then coming up and one of the state troopers said, "Was that you singing? You made the sun come out. You've got to keep singing." And I'm not one to talk to state troopers much, friends, so I remembered that exchange. And so I share it with you, and I want us to remember the power of singing. I'm so excited for you to have a new music director here. Is that the title, Curtis? Yeah. I want you to remember the power of singing. I want you to remember the power of coming together. We're a bit rusty, okay? And so what I'm going to do with you right now is I just want to take you on a guided meditation back to reclaim the Capitol together, okay? Because I've forgotten what it's like a little bit, and then we need to go back. Here's the thing that's been on my heart. From the minute I took this role, leading the justice ministry, and I started having conversations with people about what it needed to be, one of our parents of a trans kid said, "Where have y'all been?" They have missed us at the Capitol, our people who need us as allies. I took for granted what it meant to all show up in our yellow shirts, because once we don't, we're missed. And particularly a lot of our trans folks felt alone in advocating for themselves last year. And there are reasons for that, right? Like COVID was a very real risk, and a lot was going on, and a lot of us were advocating in other ways, and some of us were showing up. But I just want us to remember how needed we are, and that our presence really matters. And so come with me. Will you take a breath? A new day has dawned. Joy cometh in the morning. and you wake up and you put your yellow, gold, Side with Love shirt on. You come to the Live Oak UU Church and you meet in the parking lot. It's time for the age-old tradition of carpooling. You see your friends, you hug, maybe you are masked, and that is good, and you hug. And you get in your cars, and dreaded as it is, eventually you are on I-35. It will be worth it. You are coming to reclaim your house, the people's house. On the ride, you talk with your friends, you reconnect after this time apart, you laugh, you sing. When you get to the Capitol, you see UUs from all over the state. You remember, you are not alone. Live Oak UU is not alone in this faith movement. We are people of faith, part of something so much bigger than ourselves. And we amplify our work together. At the Capitol, there's more hugs, more joy, and a seriousness of purpose. As we talk about our call to racial justice, our call to environmental justice, our call to fight for democracy. And we talk to those people who are elected to represent us as a spiritual practice for us, because we know that that is a part of our faith, to show up for democracy, for each other, for the interconnectedness of all people. It is a powerful thing. This place is our place. It does not belong to money. It does not belong to privilege. It involves our hearts and souls, and it belongs to the people. And then we sing. And then we are connected to UUs all around the state. We know our Live Oak siblings better, and we come back to church renewed. We come back home renewed. Blessed be and amen.
Every week, we engage in the spiritual practice of generosity, combining our resources to support the ministries of this church. Part of our mission is to empower dreams, and this Sunday, we will be sharing the offering with Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services, RAICES, to help empower their dreams to provide free and low-cost legal help to immigrant children and families and to refugees in Texas. We now invite you to go to liveoakuu.org and click on Donate.
What a gift to hear your voices together. Thank you so much. Along with our joys and concerns this morning, we hold a prayer for the world. Where there is violence, may there be a peace that feels like justice. Where there is estrangement, loneliness, may people find each other again. Connection, love. I'd like to share with you a prayer this morning. Dear friend and colleague, the Reverend Teresa Ninang Soto, who serves First Unitarian Church of Oakland in California. Our friend, our creator and source, we come to you with words of grief, but also silent rage. We know that you have made us and called us. We are trans and we are holy. We are intersex and we are sacred. We are gender diverse and we are divine. We know that justice is always on the side of the oppressed. Stay on our side now. Creator, call your people to this place. Remind them that love is more than saying. Love is being and doing. This government may try to find ways to outlaw our existence. Help us lift up that higher law, the truth, that each and all of us exist as a complete expression of humanity, and help us both to heal and to rise. A people marked by difference, but chosen by ourselves and each other to be known, to be recognized. Beloved and belonging, Unitarian Universalists. We are trans and we are holy. We are intersex and we are sacred. We are gender diverse and we are divine. For all these things, we give thanks and say, Amen.
Our reading today is To Change the World Enough by Alice Walker. To change the world enough, you must cease to be afraid of the poor. We experience your fear as the least pardonable of humiliations. In the past, it has sent us scurrying off, daunted and ashamed into the shadows. Now the world is ending, the only one all of us have known. We seek the same fresh light you do, the same high place and ample table. The poor always believe there is room enough for all of us. The very rich never seem to have heard of this. In us there is wisdom of how to share loaves and fishes, however few. We do this every day. Learn from us. We ask you. We enter now the dreaded location of earth's reckoning, no longer far off or hidden in books that claim to disclose revelations. It is here. We must walk together without fear. There is no path without us.
We are going, heaven knows how we are going, but we know within, and we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. You know it. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Heaven knows how. It will be hard. I love that song from our hymnal. Originally written by the Afro-pop band Osibisa of Ghanaian and Caribbean musicians, first recorded in 1971, with a flowing rhythm, and in fact far more joyful than we often hear it in our church. And I apologize that when I sing it, maybe it doesn't feel as joyful, but the determination is a source of joy for me in that song. It was often heard in work camps. You can read Reverend Kimberly Davis's writing on this, and you can find original recordings of it online. I encourage you to go and dig about Wo Ya Ya and find different versions and find the piece where it lodges in your spirit. And if not Wo Ya Ya, then which song from our hymnal, which songs from the movement will you take into your soul to carry you forward, even when we don't know how, even when the path is muddy and rough? I love that part. The rock and roll in me is like, yes, yes, we'll get there. So I've been singing that song to myself, walking my dog on the country streets of Bastrop, Texas, where I live now, hoping my neighbors don't mind, sometimes at the top of my lungs, sometimes tears streaming down my face because I just need it. And today I'm talking with you about the spiritual practice of showing up. That's what I like to call it. I think of it this way in my life, whether it's justice work or showing up for friends, coming to church every week. Sometimes we don't know why. We don't know how. We don't know what gift of the Spirit or of relationship or of faith is coming when we show up somewhere. And yet, one of my lived experiences, and that is one of the sources of this Unitarian Universalist living tradition, is lived experiences. One of my lived experiences is that when we show up, the reason will be revealed. And that can be an act of faith. So I'm here today to invite you, in whatever ways you might be needing an invitation, to be showing up to life, to be showing up to justice, to be showing up to the person next to you, to this faith, to Live Oak, at a time when I know the community needs you and needs Live Oak. I've been thinking a lot lately about the Midwestern Unitarian laywoman Viola Liuzzo. And I learned about her in seminary. Is that name familiar to anyone? A few of us. Not a lot. A lot more of us know the name of Reverend James Reeb, who was a UU minister who died in Selma, a martyr of the civil rights movement. Well, Viola Liuzzo was also a martyr in that time, and I want to read to you a little bit about her. She lived from 1925 to 1965. Thought about that as we're celebrating 40-year birthday. 1925 to 1965 is not long enough. So on March 8th, 1965, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. sent out an urgent telegram. It said, quote, "The people of Selma will struggle on for the soul of the nation, but it is fitting that all America help bear the burden." He said, "I call therefore on clergy of all faiths, representative of every part of the country, to join me for a minister's march to Montgomery on Tuesday morning, March 9th. And Dr. King called, as you heard, for clergy of all faiths. That was the language of the time, and not people of all faiths, and often clergy meant men, not people of all genders, as we so wonderfully have in Unitarian Universalism now. But despite that call for what was effectively to male clergy, Viola Liuzzo heard it too. She was new to Unitarianism. Some of you may be new. And in the scheme of things religiously, we're basically all pretty new. Our faith came together in a merger in the 1960s. And some of us feel like old hat at Unitarian Universalism if we're second generation. But really, she was breaking from generations of her Catholic Church heritage to come and be a Unitarian. And that takes some grit. She was married, she had children, and they did not understand, her family, her husband, her community did not understand what she felt, which was the call to go to Selma and Montgomery. She told her family, quote, "It's everybody's fight. There's just too many people standing around talking." And so I think about this mother leaving her family, her children, and driving on her own. She was killed by an undercover FBI informant in her work of showing up for justice. And there's a lot to her story, and it's taken a toll on her family. But what I want to ask you today is, what call are you feeling, and how far would you go? It's hard. We've been through a lot. We are not through a lot of the through. We are still here in this pandemic. My family recovered from COVID last month. We're still getting our breath back. It felt good to be able to sing at all. And yet, the world needs us to show up. And one of the things that I love when I think about showing up is this book, Make Your Art No Matter What. I've been reading a lot of books like this during the pandemic, like, keep doing it, because it's been a discouraging time, and if you've been discouraged, you are not alone. But the author, where's her name? Beth Pickens, from the Bay Area, like Reverend Soto, says, "I'm obsessed with contrary action, the behavioral choices we make in response to thoughts and feelings that suggest giving up, hating ourselves, living in fear, withdrawing into isolation, making ourselves small, comparing our insides to someone else's outsides." We've talked about that before, right? Comparing our messy guts to someone else's shiny social media exterior. There's a recipe for disaster. She says, as you identify thought patterns you want to disrupt and feelings that you want to work through, taking a contrary action can be an effective tool for personal growth. A contrary action. What this means is when you feel like quitting, when you feel like giving up, I just can't take it anymore, God. I just can't do it anymore, to coworkers, to your spouse. At that moment of lamentation, which has all kinds of documentation in Scripture, in our sacred text, at that moment of crying out, I can't, that is exactly the moment where you take a breath, you sing Wo-Ya-Ya to yourself, or whatever it is that's your jam, and then you do that contrary thing, one more thing, to show your faith. You do something. And it's so powerful. I can't tell you, I feel like everything that I've ever made it through, achieved, the path to be a minister, the path to have my own band, the path to be a mother, everything that has been hard, and the things that have been worth it, they have had those moments. And I know you have felt it, and that's the moment. It's not that you're not tired. It's not that there's not fear, despair, sadness, grief, pandemic, COVID, loss. God, we've lost so many and so much. But not everything. We haven't lost everything. Look around this room. God, it was a joy to walk in here today and be back in here after all these years and to see so many of you. And that's where we take that contrary action when we keep showing up. Which feelings, Beth Pickens says, do you want to move through by using some new or different behavior? An easy way to exercise is this. List a few actions you want to take where a critical inner voice has stopped you short. And do the thing anyway. In the Texas Unitarian Universalist Justice Ministry, we are going to do the things anyway, regardless of what our governor or our attorney general has to say. We will never give up on the things that we know are divine rights. To live fully, thriving, not just surviving, thriving in our skin, thriving in our gender, thriving in our bodies of all different abilities. And so what I want to offer you today in that spirit is just also a little bit of information. You know me, I would rather sing and all of this, but I'm going to also give you a little bit of information while I'm here and offer and invite you into some things that we're doing. Some contrary actions in the face of what people think Texas is. But you know, are there any native Texans here like me? All right. You know that what they say at the top does not represent the truth of who Texans are. The deep diversity of the people of this state. The heart among neighbors. You know it. And so we have to show up and show it. So at the Justice Ministry, what we're looking to do is find ways that people can show up that will work for them. Because there's a lot of things going on in life. You know it right now. Lindy and I were like, are we going to make it to the 3 p.m. UU the Vote kickoff? There's a 3 p.m. UU the Vote kickoff online. If you can do it, do it. And we can't do everything. So as I'm going to tell you these things, I'm going to ask you to think about maybe one thing that you could do. All right, so the UU the Vote kickoff is at 3 p.m. today online. That's one. And then this Thursday, the Justice Ministry starts our weekly action hour, which means we get online together every Thursday at 7, and the volunteers and I have gathered each week 3 actions you can take. Doable. Things to make a spiritual practice of just doing something every week, okay? If you think you're going to change the whole world and solve everything for justice, I mean, I would crawl in my bed. We can't do everything, but we need to do the things that we can do. And if we make it a spiritual practice together every week, we will move mountains. So we log into Zoom together. We have some time of connection. We sing a song. Maybe one of you will sing a song. And then we make a call to our legislators. Or we craft a letter to the editor and we send it. A couple of things. Last time we made calls about Melissa Lucio and pleading for her life. She's on death row. Then our third action is always gratitude, always. We must stay in gratitude no matter how hard it gets. And so we send an email to an organization that really speaks to us. Maybe it's the Austin Justice Coalition. Maybe it's an abortion fund. Maybe it's an environmental justice organization. Maybe you write a letter to your first grade teacher for inspiring you and you've never forgotten it. But you send something gratitude out into the world, and that's how we close it out. And every week we open it up to our partners. We open it up to you, the UUs around the state, to say, hey, here's an action I think we need to take at Action Hour this week. The North Carolina Action Network has been doing this for 96 weeks. They had a new executive director, as I am new, a couple of years ago, and they really latched onto this online action, and it's been a powerful thing. And we are going to follow in their footsteps. And I've been going to some of theirs, and it's been so inspiring. So I really invite you to come on Thursday nights. And then, if you have a little extra time, right before that, at 6:30 on Thursdays, we are with the Poor People's Campaign. Are you familiar with the Poor People's Campaign? Reverend Dr. William Barber's campaign, Moral Mondays out of North Carolina, Repairers of the Breach, doing very powerful work led by poor people around our country. This book is We Cry Justice, Reading the Bible with the Poor People's Campaign. Now, friends, I grew up UU at First UU in Austin with very little Bible. I think this is a powerful and incredible opportunity for those of us who are UU who maybe don't have a great relationship with the Bible or little relationship with the Bible, to connect with the stories that relate to poverty and justice, because we are called to do interfaith work out in the community that is religiously literate and sacred, grounded in what we call sacred language. People hear that. I don't know how many of you claim the phrase people of faith for yourself, but I beg you to really think on that phrase if you don't claim it yet, because I know that Unitarian Universalists have faith. Even if that's not a word everybody uses, I know we do. And I know that it's so important that we have faith in our principles, in our values, in each other. And this book, We Cry Justice, has short chapters that we're going to talk about together every Thursday at 6:30 that relate to this work of poverty and justice. I wanted to share with you a little nugget for the piece that we're going to be reading this Thursday. In June 2019, during a hearing of the Budget Committee of the House of Representatives, leaders of the Poor People's Campaign came to present what we've called the Poor People's Moral Budget. It's a study showing that the United States does have the money to end poverty, hunger, homelessness, and more. It's just that we do not have the political will to do so.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true, and it shakes me to my core. And so I believe that one of our roles as Unitarian Universalist people of faith is to help amass the political will to do so. You heard from Alice Walker, to change the world enough, you must cease to be afraid of the poor. We experience your fear as the least pardonable of humiliations. The world is ending, the only one all of us have known. And I love this. The poor always believe there is room enough for all of us. The very rich never seem to have heard of this. So in this spiritual practice of showing up that we're doing, we're going to show up and we're going to take the lead of those who are most impacted by the issues on this table.
The Poor People's Campaign is one of those. As we do these action hours on Thursday night, we will be hearing from our partners, grassroots in the community, about what they need us to do, where we can put our actions. We have so much power among us. Don't ever doubt it. I've seen it. And just 1 hour a week can make all the difference in the world. I mean it. I wouldn't say it to you if I hadn't experienced it myself. So I hope to see you. I wish I could be here more, and I just hope to see your face on that screen, because if I found anything, it's that it's actually far more connecting than I ever would have thought. We joke about Zoom and all of that, but I have felt so connected to those of you who've been showing up that way, and I hope it will be more and more of you. I want to share with you the words of my predecessor, the Reverend Chuck Freeman, who I imagine some of you know and love. I love him. I miss him. I'm in this role because of health struggles that he has faced all last year and continues to face. And so I take very seriously continuing the 10 years of work that he and many of you have done. And actually, before I read his words, let me say something about that. To the elders in this congregation, to the people who have fought against white supremacy, against patriarchy, only to see some of the strides seem like they are going to be taken away. Voting rights, women's rights, healthcare. To those of you who have fought those fights and are scared now that it's all going away, I promise you, we will not let it. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know how hard the road is going to be, but I know we are not going to let you down. Your work will not be in vain. No, no. We will continue this fight. I mean it, and I want you to know it. I can't imagine what it's like to have been someone who lived through those marches in Selma and Montgomery and to see the absolute devastation of voting rights now. I mean, I was in Wendy Davis's filibuster, but to think about the fights that my mother and my grandmothers and all of you have fought for and where we are now, I just want you to know this is where we are now, but I know where we are going, okay? Reverend Chuck Freeman said this last January at our sibling congregation, First Jefferson in Fort Worth. You look at what happened in the last election in Arizona and Georgia. This wasn't a flash in the pan. This was the result of a decade or more of grassroots organizing. And Texas is on this path if we keep doing our work, and we will. The future will be determined by those who are focused, centered, organized, and mobilized for the values they hold dear. That will be us. The politically impossible will become the politically inevitable. You heard what the Poor People's Campaign said. We didn't have the political will. I counter that with the words of Reverend Chuck Freeman. The politically impossible will become the politically inevitable. We are the ones who are going to make it so, and we are not alone. We are not alone. So don't be scared. We're going to do it together, and we're going to have fun. All right? You show up, and we're going to dance, and we're going to sing, and we're going to make those calls, and we're going to get to know each other, and we are going to build the beloved community, and we're going to have fun, and we are going to get it done. Amen, and blessed be. I think from here we have a closing hymn. Yeah. Every sermon should end with a song. Number 124, I invite you to rise in body and or spirit and soak in the beautiful music that your friends are creating and add to it with your voice.
We heard today from Reverend Erin about spiritual practice. We have another one today for religious education. We'll be talking about the spiritual practice of journaling. Youth or elementary class will be meeting upstairs in room 205. Adult will be meeting right out here in Fellowship Hall. And youth, I will meet with you in the library first service to discuss service.
We extinguish this flame, but we recommit anew to carrying into our week the flame of justice and love. May we share with others the courage and strength we find here. Post-it.